Hello, hi, welcome to Tasien's class. This is Tasien and I'm happy to see you here. If you are new on this channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the videos, please don't forget to click like and share it to your network so that our videos can reach many as possible. So in today's presentation, this is our fourth tutorial about R. We are going to talk about matrices, array, lists, and data frames. I recommend you to watch the video from start to the end. Some people are just watching like 2 minutes and take close, but it's better to watch the whole video so that you can get everything that I have prepared for you. So be ready to watch from the start to the end. So welcome. Let's start. So let's start by matrices. Let's start by seeing how to create a matrix in R. Let's try to create this matrix as you can see it here. This matrix has three rows and three columns, and the elements of this matrix are numbers from 1 to 9 arranged by rows. So how can we create such kind of matrix? Let me call it A. I name it A, and then followed by this sign as usual. Then matrix, you write matrix parentheses, then you write a vector. Then I create a vector, and the vector contains all the elements in the matrix. The elements in this case are numbers from 1 to 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, and then you have to specify the number of rows in that matrix. In this case, the number of rows, yeah, so then it is specified like n row, and n row equal, in this case it is 3, and you have also to specify the number of columns. Then it is n columns. Then in this case it is also 3, and you have to specify a way you want the numbers listed in this matrix to be. So our numbers are listed, are arranged by rows. So then by row, you say by row equals true. You can write true like this, or you can just write T. So this is the same, true or just T. Then in this case we will get a matrix of 3 rows and 3 columns, and created from this list of numbers. Yeah, so if I enter this and if I write A here, then we get this matrix as I have shown. Yeah, that's how we can create a matrix. So we can create the same matrix here. Now if we like want to arrange these numbers like 1, 2, 3 to be on the columns, and and 4, 5, 6 on the second columns, and 7, 8, 9 on the third columns, then we have to change this by law, which was true. You change it into false, like here by row false. If I say by row false, if or just false, false, sorry, what am I typing? False or just if. You can write false or if like this. Then in this case, A will be like this. Now the numbers are arranged by columns, not by rows. Okay, let me take it back to by rows equal true. Let's keep this A to be like this. Yeah, so that's how we can create a matrix. And you know that there is this type of matrix which are diagonal. You can use the function diag to create those kind of matrices. Like let me create another matrix B which is diagonal, Then in this case, I say diag, this function diag is used to create a diagonal matrix. So let's say that I want a identity matrix whose diagonal is ones, let's say 1, and then you have to type 1 and you specify the number of rows you need to be in that matrix. Let's say that I need n rows, number of rows to be equal to 2, 3. Then in this case, we will have a diagonal matrix with rows 3, like this. Then B will be looking like this. You see, it is a diagonal matrix of ones. So let's say that now I want to create a diagonal matrix, but which is not identity. But I specify like which numbers I need to be on diagonal. Let me create another vector, another matrix C, which is a diagonal. But let's say that I want that on the diagonal I have elements 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you see, then what do you do? What have I done? I have specified a vector that contains elements that I want to be on our diagonal in that matrix. And then if I do it this way, whether I specify the number of rows or not, it will be a diagonal matrix. I can either specify the number of rows or not, but still it will be a diagonal matrix. Then see, like this. See, this is a diagonal matrix with diagonal elements to be these 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. So that's how we can create a matrix in R. So now that we know how to create a matrix, how can we access elements in a matrix? Let's say that we want we want this number 1. We only just want to take that number. How do we take it from that matrix? It's just you just write the name of the matrix, and then you take the square brackets, and then you specify the row where the element is situated and the column where it is situated. So we need an element, we need this one. This one is at the first row and at the first column. Then you type the row, it's the first row, and you specify the column, and the column is also the first column. If we do it this way, then you will get 1. Let's say that we want this 9. So in this case, it will be, you write A, and you specify the row. It is now at the third row, then 3, and it is also at the third column. Then you specify 3. Then you get 9. Okay. So let's say that you want now to take the whole row or the whole column. Let's say that I want to take the first row. The first row from this matrix A. What do? You just write the name of your matrix, it's A, and you specify the row that you want to take. It's the first row, and you want all the elements in the columns. So you add the comma, but you just leave empty the column side. This means if you need it, you leave it empty like this, it means that all the column, you need elements on all the columns. So like this, it will give us 1, 2, and 3 as they are on the first row. If you need the column, let's say that we need the second column only, then you have to write the name of the matrix, square brackets, and then all the rows. Then you skip here, it's empty because you need all the rows, and then you specify the column. The column in this case is 2. Then like this, you will get the numbers on the second column, and the numbers on the second column was 2, 5, and 8. Yeah. So let's say, for instance, we want to take these numbers, these 2 and these 3 and these 5 and these 6. So we need this small matrix, the matrix which contain elements at the first and the second rows and the second and the third columns. How do we do this? You just type A and then you specify the rows that you want. It's from row 1 to 2 is just 2 dot to row 2, and you also specify the columns that you want to take. We also want to take columns from 1 to 2 like this. If you do it this way, then you get your matrix just like that. Easy. Yeah. It's easy. That's how we can access elements from a matrix that is already saved in your Yeah, so next let's see how we can replace an element in a matrix. Let's say that we in our matrix A, let me call it back. In our matrix A here, we want to replace this 8 by, let's say, 20. So you need, or what you need is to know which row and which column the element is situated. So in this case, how do you replace it? You just say that in matrix A, at the third row and at the second column, the element there, you give it another value, then you specify another value to that element. Then in this case we want it to be equal to 20, then 20, like this. So if I say that it's 20 and then if I call back A like this, so you see the element here was 8, then we have replaced it by 20, and here is our 20. Yeah. Let's say that we want to replace the whole column. Let's say I want to replace this first column by other values. Let's say that I want to replace them by a vector C, which is equal, let me say 10, 12 and 30. I have this vector and I want it to be here at the first column of our vector A. In this case, I will say A, and I specify that all the rows but the first column of A should be this vector, our vector C. Let me copy it, it's faster. So I want this vector here. Yeah, like this. So if I call A, see, our first column has been changed. The elements has been changed into 10, 12 and 13. Yeah, so that's how you can change elements in a matrix. But then how can we add another row or another column to our matrix? This is done by using these two functions. There is one function rbind, and the other function is cbind. The function rbind here is used to add a row to a matrix, and the cbind is used to add a column to a matrix. Okay, so let's say that we want to add a column to our matrix A. You just say C, let's start by adding a row. Then you say row bind. What? You want to bind a matrix A, our matrix A, and you want to add another row. You specify the vector that contains the elements that you want to be on the new row. So let's say that I want that the new row will contain numbers 40, 50, and 60. Of course, this vector should have the same length as the columns in the matrix that you want to add to. So then if I do it this way, like this, so you see, our matrix has changed. The fourth row has added this row. Fourth row with elements 40, 50, and 60. Yeah, so in a similar way, if you want to add a column now, instead of using R bind, you will have to use C bind. Like now, if I want to add another column here on our matrix, it will be C bind, then A, and you specify the vector that you want to be on the columns. So let me say that I wanted this number 40, 50, and 60 to be added on the column. Then in this case, if you use the C bind, instead of coming here, they have to create another column here. So let's see it. So you see, like this. Then instead of adding a row like in here, it has added a column like, yeah, this column like here. See, just use R bind or C bind if you want to add a row, then R bind. If you want to add a column, then C bind. So let's say that we still have our matrix A here, like this. We have this matrix of 3 rows and 3 columns like this. But again, you may need to drop. Just you want to drop away 1 column or 2 columns, or you want to drop away a row or 2 rows. How do you do it? Let's at the beginning you say that we don't need any more this row. We want to drop it away. How do we do it? You just type the matrix A and you specify the columns, and if you don't want to keep a column, a row, you will use a letter F to specify that you don't need it. And if you want to keep it, then you use a letter T, true, false, or true. Then I don't need the first row, but I need the second row, and I also need the third row. And I want, this is for rows. And how about for columns? Let's say that I want to keep all the columns, column 1, column 2, and column 3. So in this case, I only want to keep these elements. I want to take away these elements. Yeah, like this. So you see, the first row has taken away. Let's say that I want to take away a column. In a similar way, then we just type A, and we want to keep all the rows, but we don't want to keep all the columns. Let's say that we want to keep the first column, but we don't need the second column, and we need the third column. So we drop away the second column in this case, like this. So you see, the matrix was, to remind it, the matrix was this one. So you see, so we wanted to take away this second column. So it will be, we remain with this first column and these third columns, as you can see it down here. Yeah, just use T or false if you want, then T. If you don't want it, false. Yeah, good. So the other thing that we can do, or I can talk about on matrices in R, is about some operations on matrices. Let's say that I have a matrix. I'm going to create another matrix. Let's say matrix. I have a matrix with elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And how many rows? N row equals 3, and n column equals 3, and by row through, we have our matrix A that we have been using before, and let's say that I have another matrix B, and B, let's say that we have another matrix B matrix, then I specify the elements. Instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, then let's say I have 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and how many number of rows? N row equals 3, and n columns equals 3, and by row through, yeah, I have another matrix B here. So now this is another matrix, and let's say that I want to compute the product. The product of these two matrices A, B. How do we compute it? You just type the matrix A followed by this sign and asterisk and this sign, and then followed by the matrix B. If you do it this way, then you will get the product. That's how we compute the product. Please keep in mind that when you are making matrix product, you need these percentage signs to be present in your command. And if you want just the sum, it's just A plus B. If the negative, the subtraction, then it will be A minus B, just like that. And the other operation that is done on matrices is the transpose of a matrix. Let's recall our vector A. We have the vector A here, and we want to transpose it. How do we do it? Just T and A, just T A transpose. So you see, we had before on the first row 1, 2, 3, but if we transpose it, this row have to go on the column. So you see, on the column here, and this second row has to be on the second column here, and the third row, this third row on the third column here. That's how you transpose a matrix. The other thing that can be done is to find inverse of a matrix. Let's say that I have a matrix A, I specify another matrix that I know that can be inversible, because some matrices are not inversible, like singular matrices cannot be invertible. So let me construct a matrix that I know that is inversible. Let me take a diagonal matrix at least. Then see, let me say that on the diagonal I have 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, we have this diagonal matrix. Yes, A here, and I want the inverse. How do we compute the inverse of a matrix? The inverse, we compute the inverse by using the function solve, and you add the matrix here in the solve function. They say that we need the inverse of A, then the inverse will be, we just write solve A like this. So if we solve it, you see, then we have this matrix. Out of diagonals, there are zeros, of course, because it's a diagonal matrix, and then we have to inverse the diagonal elements. 1/1 is 1, and 1/2 it will be 0.5, and 1/3 it will be equal to just this number. Yeah, solve if the matrix is not singular, of course. The solve function will be used to calculate the inverse of a matrix. Yeah. The other thing which is crucial in matrices is to find the eigenvalues and eigenvectors. How do we do that? Eigenvalues and eigenvectors. 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 How do we compute these values? We use the function eigen. The function eigen. This function eigen, what is used for a matrix, it will compute the eigenvalues and the eigenvectors. Let's, for instance, say that we need eigenvalues and eigenvectors for our matrix A. Then we will have to write eigen A. Ta-da! So the results will be like, it has two components. We have eigenvalues and eigenvectors. So the eigenvalues are these elements 3, 2, and 1, and the corresponding eigenvectors here in this matrix down here. The first eigenvector on the first column, the second eigenvector for the second, and the third eigenvector on the third column. It's like this column, the first column correspond to this value, and this is the second column, the second eigenvector. It's eigenvector corresponding to this eigenvalue, and the other one is corresponding to this eigenvalue. So the function eigen. That's all what I have to say about matrices in R. Yeah, the other type of object that we are going to talk about today is what we call an array. Let me clean this. Yeah, an array. An array in R, it is a type of object used to store multidimensional data. It's like we have data which has dimensions which is greater than 2, because in one dimensional data we have vector to store those kind of data, and we have matrices to store two-dimensional data, like rows for one dimension and columns for another dimension. But what if we have more than 2 dimensions? So then in that case we have to use what we call array. And how do we create an array in R? Let's say that I want to create an array Z, and to create it you use the function array. And in the array you have to specify the data. Then in the data that I want to use here, let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and you have to specify the dimension. And how do we specify the dimension? It's the dim, and then dim equal followed by a vector that contains the dimension. Let's say that I want 2, and then I will have to create matrices of 2 columns and 2 rows, and 2 columns. And how many matrices? Then 2. Then in this case I will create like 2 matrices in this data here. Yeah, and each of those matrices will have 2 rows and 2 columns like this. So if I do it this way, and if I call Z, I will get this kind of data. So you see, the first element in Z, it is this matrix. It is a matrix of 2 columns and 2 rows. And the second element here, it is also a matrix, and a matrix of 2 rows and 2 columns. So that's why I have here dim dimension equals 2, 2, 2. Yeah. So you see, this kind of data also, it's also useful in R. And let's say that I want to extract elements from an array. Let's say that I want the first element of the array Z. I will type Z, and then I specify that all the dimensions and the columns, but I want the first the first element there. Then I will get this first matrix here, this one, this matrix. And if I want to get this second matrix, then I will have to call Z and all the columns, and then the third dimension will be 2. Yeah, just like that. That's the array in R. So now let me clean here, and then we talk about another type of object in R. And the other type of object that I want to talk about today is a list. A list in R, it's just a type of object that contains different types. It stores different types of objects, and those objects, they may be of the same type or of different type. Let me for instance say that my list, and to create a list you use the function list, and you list what you want to store. Let's say I want to store my name, Tassien, and I want to store the number of children that I have. I currently have 2, and let's say that I also want to store the languages that I speak. And then since I speak more than one language, then I have to create a vector that contains those languages that I speak. Let's say a vector C, then I speak Kinyarwanda, Kinyarwanda, and I will also speak English. I do English. I speak French, and I speak Finnish. I also speak Finnish. So you see, this kind of object, it contains first this part. This is just a single element, a single character element, and this is another single character, not another single element, which is a double or a numeric data, and then another element, which is a vector, and this vector contains the languages that I speak. So if I just create it this way, so then if I call my list here, so this is displayed. It's like here, it's like in my list, the first component of my list is this value, Tassien, and the second component is this number of children that I have, and the second component in my list is just this vector, a vector of these elements, 4 elements. Element 1, Kinyarwanda, English, French, and Finnish. Yeah. So let's say that I only want to, how do I access elements in a list? Let's say I only want to display the languages that I speak. Then what do? I will just write my list, and then 3, the third element. If I do it this way, then I only get the languages that I speak. Yeah, and if I want only to know the number of children that I have, then I will say my list, and that number, it was at the second element, then 2, then it will be 2. Yeah, so that's how we can access elements elements in a list. Yeah, so we may also need to give names to a list. How do we give names? Let's say that I want to name. Yeah, let me like call it back. Yeah, let me say that I want to name this component as names. So then I will like I will I will have to say, let's say my list, and the name that you want to give, let's say you use this sign dollar, and you call it name, because I want like the first element in my list be names, then equal tasien, equal equal tasien, yes, and my list, and again dollar sign, and let's say that the other element, the number, it's number of children, then equal to, and my list languages, language languages that I speak, oh sorry, languages, then equal, then I will add the list of languages that I speak, then see, it was, let me copy it, it will be fast if I copy it. Nyarwanda, it was Nyarwanda, English, French and Finnish, then I copy them here, then I put it here like this. Something long, there is, I have forgotten to close my vector, then see like this, then I close it. Yeah. So now I have given names. Now in this case, if I call my list like this, so then things has changed. It will display name here, name, the name is Tasien, and then number of children 2, and then languages, then specify languages. Yeah, that's how we can create a list and or give names of components in a list. Yeah, that's it. Wow, hurrah! Now we are good to go to the most precious type of object for me. Yeah, the data frame. The data frame. So what is a data frame? Let me clean this. We don't need it anymore. Then I clean it. So then what is a data frame? A data frame, it's a kind of a type of object, and it is formed by rows and columns, and the columns in a data frame are vectors of the same size. Vectors of the same size. Not absolutely that the vectors has the same type of elements, but the most precious thing or important thing is that those vectors should have the same length or the same size. Yeah, normally n data is stored as a data frame, so that each column corresponds to a variable and each row corresponds to an observation. That's how normally data are stored, are presented in R. They are mostly presented as data frames. I repeat it again, and the column represents one variable and each row represents one observation. Yeah, so that's a data frame. So how do we create a data frame? Let's create our first data frame. I call it my data. And to create a data frame, To create a data frame, what am I typing? My keyboard is in finisher now. Okay. Uh-huh. To create a data frame, we use this data dot frame. And what do we need in a data frame? We have to specify the columns. Let's say that I want to create a data frame that will contain information about students, and it will specify students' names and student age and student major course and student minor course and student points. So let's say that I start by ID. The first column will be ID, then ID it's the name, then I say equal, then I specify a vector of IDs. Let's say that I have 3 students, and the first student, the ID is let's say 2024 1, means that academic year 2024, and the first student, and the second student 2024 2, and the third student then 2024 3. This is the ID. And the second column, let's say that it will be the major courses, major subject. Then let me call it major. Then equal. Then I will specify the major courses that are taken by those students. Let's say that the first student major is statistics. Statistics, and the second student is major. Let's say that it's mathematics. Yeah, and the first student is major. Let's say that it's, for instance, geography. Yeah, and yeah, that's the major. And the other thing that I have said that I have to specify, what was that? Then the points, and that vector I call it points. Yeah, and the points will be equal. Then I specify a vector of points. Let's say that the first student got, let's say 70%, and the second got let's say 75, and the other one is 55. These are the columns that I need in my data frame. So then I have also to specify the names. Let me say row names. Then it is done by writing row dot names, as this, like that, row dot names. Then it's a vector also, a vector of those students. Let's say that the first student is Tassien, and the second student is Vestine, and the second student is, let's say, Olive. Like this. Yeah. Yeah. So then if I call this my data here, if I call my data, see, I will get a kind of data type, which is like this. So you see, we have names of students. I have Tassien, Vestine, and Olive. Then I specify IDs in the first column and the major subjects in the second column, and points in the third column. So we may need to, for instance, add other columns to this data frame, and they say that I want to add a minor subjects that these students take to this data frame. How do I do that? I just write my data, then I add the name of the column that I want to add. Then I want to add minor subject, and then you have to define it. Let's say the minor subject equal to Tassien take minor I take minor in data science. Let's say um, data science, and Vestina take minor in let's say in biology, and Olive have minor in history. Then I write history. History like this. Yeah. So in this case, if I now call my data, you will see that the vector has changed. The data set has changed. It has added another column. Maybe if I make this one bigger and I call it again, yeah. I want it to look like this so that you can see it well. So you see that I have added another column, and this column contains minor subjects for each of the students. So we have added data science as a minor to Tassien, and biology as a minor to Vestine, and history as a minor to Olive. Yeah, so that's how we can create a data frame in R. So how can we access elements in a data frame? For instance, if we want to take just take a columns of data set, we can specify them by name by calling their names. Like you just write the data set, the name of the data frame, in this case my data, and then you add the $sign, and then you choose which of the columns that you want. Let's say I want their points, then you choose the points and display them. So you see 70, 75, and 55. And let's say that my data, and let's say that I want to see their major subjects, then you call them, you take the major, then you display them. Just easy like that. Yeah. So it's easy. There is many ways you can do if you want to like subset a data frame, and let me take some of those ways how you can just subset a data frame. One way is just calling the names of the columns, and the other way is to use the function subset. Subset. For instance, using the function subset. And how do we use this function subset? It's like subset, and you have to specify a data frame that you want a subset from it. Then in this case it's my data, and you have to specify which subset you want. Let's say I want like a data set, a subset which contain my data, and where the ID equals to 2024 one, like this. So you see, I get a subset of from this data set, and I only take a subset where ID is equal to this specific ID. Then in this case, the student is Dacian, its ID is the specified ID here, and then to display its major, points, and minor. Yeah. Okay, guys. So you may also need to add a new row on our data frame. So in that case, you have to create another data frame that contain only one observation, because you need one row. So then they say new row. So then in this case, you will have to create a data frame, data.frame, and then you will have to specify the same columns that we have in our data frame that we want to add to. Then we have to specify the ID, then ID equal, then 224, then the fourth student, and what else do we have to specify? We also have to specify what's next. The next column is the major. Then you have to specify major subject. Then the major subject, let's say that for this student, the major subject is, let's say that her major subject is chemistry. Chemistry. Yes, and you have also to specify the points that he get or she gets. Then points, and the points equal. Let me see how the points is written, because it have to be written the same way as points, and equal, and then you specify her how much points. Then maybe he has gotten 90, he's a genuine, and you also have to specify the minor subject. Then minor equal, if he's studying chemistry, let's say that her minor subject is biology. Biology, yes, like this. And then you have to specify the row name, names, and then let's say that in this case, this time we have a male student. Let's say that the student name is Paul. Yeah, yes, that's the new data frame, the new row that we want to add to our data frame is this one. So how do we add this? So as we have done in matrices, we have to use the R-bind. Then we have to bind these two data frames. Then if we create another data frame with this row, so we have to like write R-bind. So what you want to bind? We have to bind the data frame that we had before, my data, and this new row that we want to add, new row, like this. Yeah, so if we do it this way, see, we get a new data frame, and the data frame has the new row that we wanted, Paul with ID, that major subject, and that point, and that minor subject. Yeah. So guys, there is many ways to manipulate a data frame, and I can't say it all here. So I will make a specific video that will talk about only manipulating data frames. Yeah, so not the next video, but wait for me. You will get a video which will be specific on manipulating data frames in R. Thank you for watching today, and thank you for liking my videos, sharing the videos, and comment. If there is something that you want to say, please write it in the comments and let me know your thoughts, or just anything. Thank you and hope to see you next time. Bye.